cool. Hey guys, Devin here with Make Anything, and today is such an awesome day because I am finally getting a new 3D printer. That's right, Enervision is a 3D printer distributor for the US, and they sent me their EV160 3D printer to test out for them. The EV160 is the first printer they are releasing in the US through Amazon, and they have a whole range that will be coming out thereafter. The printer costs $850, which puts it somewhere in the middle range for pre-built 3D printers. It's a third of the price of what my first printer cost me, but I still think it could be an upgrade considering it has a heated bed, LED touchscreen, full steel construction. It's got a lot of really cool things that my other printer doesn't. Alright, let's waste no more time and unbox this baby. I will be using the Dagger of Truth.
You might think you can daily print anything, but what of that which you desire most?
Alright. Here we go. Looks like the Postal Service did their standard roughing up. This is packed well, it seems, with lots of foam all around it, so it may have survived the Postal Service torture test. Saran wrap here. And I can see there's a little test print on there. This thing is actually pretty heavy. It's advertised as a lightweight printer, but I kind of like the fact that it is so robust. Here's the print that came off the print bed while it was being shipped, and it looks pretty good as far as quality is concerned, so it's a good sign. It's not the easiest thing to print either. I'm surprised they went with something with support material and everything just for a sample print. But hey, there you have it. Got another box here. Oh, that's a nice, really big spool of white filament it comes with. Oh, there's a whole bunch of tools. That's very nice. A couple more parts. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the masking tape that was used for that sample print. It's a little scuffed up. So as you can see, we've got the printer head right here. And the duct for the fan is actually 3D printed, which is kind of funny. Maybe they use it as a test print in the factory. But hey, if it works, I won't complain. And maybe I'll experiment with that some more too. Alright, now that I've made some space, we can look at everything that came with the package. Of course, we've got the printer, but we've also got a lot of tools, it seems, which is awesome. It looks like they give you everything you need to get started with this printer. A scraper. We've got a little Bowden tube, I guess, for feeding the filament. The USB cable, the power cable, tweezers, flathead screwdriver. Yeah, there's already a nozzle on there, so this is just an extra nozzle that it comes with. So here we've got the tool for removing the nozzle. It's the exact size of the edges here, so that's actually something I should have had a long time ago. These metal parts are part of the spool holder, which I will assemble in just a minute. Comes with an SD card. Comes with tape, filament. There's also some snippers and a craft knife. I don't even know what this is really for. Cleaning up prints, I guess. Alright, so this really does have everything you need to get started, which is great. I love to see that. So the one thing we do need to assemble here is the spool holder, which is mounted on the printer itself. So I'll just undo these 4 tiny screws, and I'll attach these brackets that came in the box. I'll tighten this side, and the other I'll just put in loosely until after I screw in this top bar, and then I'll tighten those just so that everything is spaced perfectly. And here is the bar that is actually going to hold the filament spool. So you just run it through like that, and the filament just rolls along that spool. It's a pretty simple but effective way to hold filament. Alright, we're almost ready. We're just going to plug this baby in. Now notice there is no transformer on this plug because it's actually built into the base of the printer, which is super cool. It's just a plug directly into the wall. The power cord is nice and sturdy, although it's only about 3 feet long, so if you don't have a power source right nearby, you might need an extension cable. Here in the back we see the brand name, the model number, and the build volume, 160 millimeters cubed. And it's got all its safety certifications, so we know this thing won't catch on fire, as some 3D printers have been known to do. You can see there's plenty of ventilation here on the bottom, and all we gotta do is flip the switch and the printer is running. Here's the front LCD screen, and it's got a little screen protector. The most satisfying part of any unboxing. Well, usually. In this case, it's actually stuck underneath the metal itself, so it's really hard to get all of the screen protector off. So here's the interface, which you use to control everything, and as you can see, it's got 2 extruder controls, the heated bed, the fan, and plenty of other options that we don't really need to mess with just yet. I'll just go ahead and hit the coordinate system here, which will open up a new set of controls that lets me move around the printer head and the print bed. Oddly enough, pressing the Z up button is going to move the build plate downward. Strange, but easy enough once you know it. And each time you hit the button, it moves by a set increment, but you can always hit this red X to just stop all motor controls. Before starting a print, I want to put masking tape back on the build plate. Blue painter's tape works really well, but I'm just going to try out the masking tape that came with the printer. Then I will home the Z axis, which brings it right up to the top. Now this printer was already used for that sample print that came in the box, so the build plate is pretty much level. You just have to do a little bit of manual fine-tuning with the 4 screws on the bottom of the build plate. And you can get it level pretty easily just by using the paper test, which is where you just take a regular piece of copy paper and try to run it in between the build plate and the nozzle. And you want the distance between the nozzle and the build plate to be just enough that you can fit the paper underneath, but you feel a little bit of friction. Next, I'm going to press on that number 1 extruder. There is only 1 extruder on this printer, so you're always going to use that button. You can make the nozzle extrude or retract using these buttons on the right. And you can also press the temperature right here to set a new temperature. And as you can see, there's this little graph that shows you what the current temperature is, as well as the target temperature you're trying to reach, which is pretty neat. Once that reaches temperature, all I have to do is press down this lever and manually feed in some filament until it starts coming out on the other end. As you can see, I'm purging out all that gray filament that was used for the sample print. I'm going to open up the SD card that came with the printer here and see if there's anything on it. I'll just press the SD button, and sure enough, there are 2 prints on here. I don't know what either of them are, but I guess the first is the sample print. So let's try she and see what that comes out to be. So let's check out the print, and I'll have the volume on here so you can actually hear what the printer sounds like. Here's a quick time lapse of the print, although the lighting was a little bit drastic, so it's kind of hard to see the model itself. But as you can see, it printed out this really tall model successfully, support material and all. Now I can use the tools that came with the printer to break off all the support materials. You can do a lot of it just with your hands, and I used the tweezers for a bit as well. And here is the end result. Now this is a super close-up, and you can see the print came out pretty smooth. It looks like it's at 100 micron resolution as well. Alright, next I'm going to see what it takes to actually slice up a file and print it myself. So I'm going to open up Cura, which I already have installed, but it's also included on that little SD card that comes with the printer. And then I'll use the machine settings to install a new machine. Now there's no profile for this printer on Cura, so you can just go ahead and make one manually, putting in the build volume and the nozzle size. And then I'm just going to import this little benchy, which you've probably seen. It's just a calibration test that challenges the different aspects of the 3D printer. So I'll just go through and change the cure settings to the recommended values that Enervision sent me. If you happen to be calibrating the printer right now, you can just pause the screen and copy all those values. Now every printer varies a bit, and it's always good to adjust things as you go along, but these initial values seem to be good. Once everything looks good, you can just click this toolpath to SD button, which will automatically upload it to the SD card. Although you still want to move that G-code into the G-code folder on the SD card, otherwise the printer will not read it. So here is that Benchy printing out. The build plate is nice and level, and since the bed is heated, you can see the print is sticking down just wonderfully. So as this little Benchy gets taller, it kind of gets more challenging. One of the first obstacles are these holes up front, and the EV160 bridged those gaps pretty well. You can see it also pulled off the arches over the door of the boat with just a little bit of drooping. And here is the final print. So I'll just pop that off the build plate with my standard grace. And I'll use the tweezers again just to pull off some tiny imperfections. And I can use the craft knife to kind of just carve out those overhangs a bit. This is actually the first Benchy I've printed, but it looks pretty good to me. If we do a super close-up, you can see the layers are mostly consistent. You could always slow down the print to make it even more accurate, but in this case I'm happy with how it turned out. Alright folks, well there you have it. That is my experience with this Enervision EV160 3D printer. And I gotta say, it's been a pleasant ride so far. I've only printed these two models, but they printed wonderfully at a stunning 100 micron resolution. That's not something all printers can do. And as far as pre-built printers that are ready to run out of the box, this is pretty competitively priced, so it's not a bad machine. Comparing it to my experiences with the MakerBot, I've got to say it's got a lot of advantages. Of course, the heated build plate is the biggest upgrade for me personally because it allows me to have prints stick a lot better, first of all, and I can also play with some materials that I wasn't able to use before, like ABS, nylon, and other really cool materials. I'm also a real big fan of the touchscreen right up front. It's angled at a very natural position, and the buttons did seem small, but I never had a problem. I hit every button that I intended to hit. Of course, as I said, this thing is built like a beast. It is very sturdy, and I have no fear about it rattling to pieces. I just need a sturdier surface to print on, and this thing would be really stable. As with many printers that don't have automatic bed leveling, it is a bit finicky to get a level build surface, but since everything is built so sturdy, I imagine that once you have it level, it's going to stay level for quite some time. So if you're looking for a 3D printer and this sounds like something that's up your alley, make sure to check the description where I have a link to the product. It's available on Amazon, so if you've got Prime, it'll ship in 2 days for free, which is really awesome. If you guys enjoyed me reviewing this printer and want to see me review other printers as well, let me know in the comments. Until next time, I'm Devin. This is Make Anything. Don't forget to stay inspired. What is this guy?